I am so pleased to announce we are releasing signature focal point short straps. Handmade in Germany, available only until the 18th of August. Standard black edition with black embossed details. Dark green and gold edition with gold foiling and gold details. So unbelievably stoked on how these came out. If you're interested, the link is in the description. Details on the website. Without further ado, let's get on with the video. Today I want to show you as realistic as possible day of street photography. I want to show you the good photos, the bad photos, and everything in between. I will break down and explain my thought process as I take each photograph so you can see what a day of street photography is really like. I will also give each photograph a rating out of 10 so you can see how many photographs I do actually like compared to how many rubbish photographs I take. And I would say anything above a 5 out of 10 means that it's okay and I don't mind it, and anything below a 5 out of 10 means that nobody really needs to see it and the image is pointless. However, as I might explain in this video, a lot of street photography isn't about the end result, and it's actually just about enjoying your time in the city taking pictures. But with that being said, we will critique my photographs as the day goes on. So I hope this gives you a granular insight into what I'm thinking as I'm taking photographs in real time. So I hope you find this useful and I hope you enjoy the video. Starting the day off, very briefly getting things set up. Just a quick glance is enough to know if my settings are ready to rock and roll. The bag I'm using is a Bellroy 9-litre Venture Sling. It's perfect for another camera body, maybe another lens, but most of the time it just has my wallet, AirPods and a bottle of water. Settings looking good at f8 between 500th and 1000th of a second and auto ISO. Now it's time to get warming up. It might be a little street photography cliche to see someone with a hat and take the picture, but I wanted to build some momentum and get the ball rolling. The first thing I do is head over to Spitalfields Market, and I want to show you a photo from this hat stall that I got just a few days before. I think it's a fun one, especially being able to capture the reflection in the mirror, the emotions, small gesture, and the fact that everyone here is wearing a hat. So as I'm trying to warm up, I think it's important to just shoot whatever and not overthink it. Faces on stuff is always an easy trigger, so why not? Right here, I noticed the face on the wall behind the girl. I specifically noticed the gesture of the hand on the face, and as I walked past, the girl also did something similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's almost something. I like the composition, I think the colors are okay, but it could be improved if the girl wasn't on her phone and perhaps the gesture was a little bit more similar. I quite like the energy in and around the marketplace, so I did another loop and headed back inside when I noticed this very harsh piece of light being reflected from a mirror. This is one of those situations where I'm not entirely sure what I want from it, but I'll experiment and see what happens. In the end, nothing comes together really, and this is probably the type of photo that would get deleted if I wasn't showing you my entire process. But the light caught my attention and I tried something. I then met up with JP, who was going to join me for the rest of the day.
Oh, is this the new Insta360 Ace Pro 2?
It was time to get some coffee, and I also needed to give him a copy of my new zine, which is made from my favorite pictures I got from New York City in April. There's a handful of these zines left in stock, and if you're interested, a link is in the description. The next thing was to drop some film off at London Film Lab. These are the guys I use to develop and scan my film. Good bunch of people, and they do it in rapid timing. A very nice and reliable place to go. Before I show you the second day where I shot entirely on film, I want to talk to you about today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is the perfect place to learn pretty much any creative skill. You've probably seen on the channel that I've been shooting a lot more film recently, and if you're curious about diving into that more, Skillshare has tons of lessons and workshops to explore. I highly recommend checking out the series by Kyle McDougall, a fellow YouTuber and photographer. He breaks down almost everything you need to know about film photography. Skillshare classes are taught by real talented creatives, from pro illustrators to designers and successful entrepreneurs. You can learn directly from the people who are actually doing the work. Skillshare covers so much from illustration to design to photography to productivity and so much more. So here's the offer for you guys. The first 500 people to click the link in the description or use the QR code on screen get a 1-month free trial. So join the community, have a look, see what you think, and a big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Next, we headed down Brick Lane. Another mirror caught both mine and JP's eye. This one has nice timing to catch the woman holding the flowers in a somewhat clean composition. Nothing groundbreaking, but I enjoyed the quick snap. A lot of this is about momentum for me, and I don't want to go more than 15 minutes without pressing the shutter button. I just don't want to lose the pace. because it's very easy for those 15 minutes to become 2 hours and then you start switching off. For the next hour or so, we headed over to Columbia Flower Market. This happens every Sunday morning, but for some strange reason, in all my years of shooting in London, I've never cared to see it. So for a small bit of novelty, we headed that way. A running theme you might see in this video is dogs, because dogs are a very easy photograph to take. And even though this photograph is a little bit boring, I still feel like I'm getting started for the day, so why not? This next photo is a nice moment in my opinion. I was lucky enough to get the timing pretty perfect as I saw they were just about to embrace. I like the flowers the woman is holding, suggesting the kiss is a small thank you gesture. I don't mind the chaos that's going around them, although it's not technically a very clean image or outstanding composition, but considering where it was, it could have been much worse. So yeah, this one's not too bad. For reference on how I focus in these situations, since I'm shooting at f8, if I stick the lens at around 2 meters, I have a 1.5 to 5 meter focus distance covered. So anything happening in my immediate area will most likely be in focus enough without me having to be super critical and specific. As this person lifted their hands up, I grabbed a quick frame. I'm just exercising the ability to notice and shoot. Even though this is a nothing image, I never want to hesitate. So this is another photograph that would get deleted if I wasn't showing you the entire process. I do quite like how vibrant this one feels. If the woman in blue was wearing a green top with flowers on it, then it would have elevated the frame to something quite cool. I also like how the man in the top left is buried behind all the flowers and the composition. This was something I didn't notice at first, but it's a small bonus when looking back at the photographs afterwards. Not terrible. As I see this gentleman carrying a box of plants, I knew there could be a possibility he could get lost and camouflaged into the background with the rest of the trees. That was my attempt anyway, but I don't think this effect really worked enough in my favor with too much of his body on show. A common theme or idea with this game of street photography is that it's all about the attempt. 99% of this is failure. And that's a good thing, because if it was easy, I don't think the good photographs would feel as rewarding. So I could go out most days and most weeks expecting nothing. And from that point of view, when you do get something, it feels even better. Green socks is what caught my attention here. I thought maybe with the lines on the floor and the flower pots around him, there could be something to mix and match, but nothing really worked. Seconds after this, however, a girl walked through carrying these plant pots with a nice expression. This one's not bad, but it's not great either. That does it for this little mooch around the flower market. Not like I was expecting anything to begin with, but I'll definitely have to head back here and try again. It certainly has potential with the nice light, the amount of people, and the colourful flowers. Time to jump on a bike and head central towards Trafalgar Square. I might be biased, but London is easily one of the best cities on the planet, and riding a bike through the city on a day like this is just perfect. The first thing I noticed at Trafalgar Square is this very smartly dressed gentleman reading a book. I also like how just behind him is another subject laid back, looking down and potentially reading a book as well, but I can't be certain. And the best thing about this is just how fantastic that tie is. Combining the subjects, the minimal colour and the pleasing composition, I quite like this one. The next stop on this day was to meet up with some pals who have a few photographs in a coffee shop not far from Tottenham Court Road. After a small chinwag with some friends, we headed back outside, and anywhere around Tottenham Court Road, it's like a wind tunnel, so it's not rare to see people's umbrellas breaking, hair covering faces, and generally just a little bit more action than usual. This one here shows someone's hair completely covering someone's face. This would have been much better if I was closer and there was not as much mess happening around the subject. But at least I tried. This is a case of an interesting moment, but not very well executed. And I think we kept things moving anyway because I wanted to get lunch. Otherwise, I would have stuck around here a little bit longer and tried to see some more. This shot of the bikes is just a reactionary shot. I noticed all the bikes piled up and the two people riding past at the same time. This isn't anything really, except I always play in my mind, what if? What if they crashed into the bikes? What if they got off their bike and added it to the pile? What if anything? All I needed was to be ready, and the pile of bikes was just my initial trigger. So again, this photo will probably get deleted, but I thought I would just explain my thought process with that one. JP and I are now hovering around Oxford Circus. There's always lots going on here in every direction. I noticed this well-dressed woman in yellow walking in front of the yellow post, so I tried to quickly put two and two together. I find a lot of good street photographs come from when you combine multiple elements, kind of like puzzle pieces. You're connecting the dots between matching elements and subjects. With all that jargon to one side, this didn't really work, to be fair. In fact, maybe the photo would have been better without the yellow box in the foreground, but who knows unless you try these things. Next, we headed west along Oxford Street. We noticed this very odd reflective texture on the side of John Lewis. This is the type of situation where I have no idea what could potentially happen, but I'm happy to just lean into curiosity and go with the flow. Turns out after a minute or two, neither JP or I could see how it would work, so I took a selfie. Further down Oxford Street and we ended up at Selfridges. One of the best things about this building is not only the shoppers walking out, because it's a very expensive place, so you get more fancy dressed people and interesting characters. But the other good thing that is attractive about this spot is quite simply the old architecture. Shooting into the corners, like where I'm stood here, looks like it has potential. I didn't get any good photographs here on this day, but every time I go here, I think of a very good photograph from Robert Frank in his book, The Americans. The photograph is Canal Street. This frame is just so interesting. And I feel like the corner of Selfridges has this kind of potential. Because there are hundreds of people coming and going from all angles, you can just sit on the corner and hope for it all to come together. So far for me, it hasn't worked, but I'm holding out for my own, much less impressive Canal Street type picture here. Time for another coffee before it gets too late, because why not? And we're back in Central, this time around Piccadilly Circus. I walk past these horses all the time. These horse statues normally attract people to kind of hover around and sit on the edge. And I noticed this guy wearing a Ferrari jacket. And well, yeah, very stoked with this one. Maybe to improve this frame, you could hope that the other subject in the bottom left wasn't there, but that's actually what happened, so I'm not really gonna get too picky about it. I really like this photograph. We ended our day with a quick stroll through Regent's Park, and I noticed this tree growing through the fence. What a strange thing to happen, but I enjoy noticing these small, quick details. And as I go about my photo walks, you never know, I might end up with a collection of these small, random, fun details around town. It could make for an odd Instagram post or a fun little zine in the future. So I always think you may as well grab those frames anyway. They might add up one day. Moving on to about half a day of shooting, and this time on film. I don't think my approach of what I look for is different compared to digital, but I'd say I'm just a little bit more considerate with my shots. We're kicking things off by loading a roll of Portra 400. On this day, I was actually with Hannah, so as she was popping in and out of shops, I kind of just hovered around outside and kept shooting. The first shot of the day was just a very simple selfie, just to warm up. The next one, I'm in Liverpool Street Station, where I thought I would test out a slow shutter, as some of the people in here are completely still reading the board, and others are moving around quickly. Why not give it a go? And it's a little bit naff, but it's still early, so whatever. I had to be super quick on this next one as I noticed it very last second. The colours, shapes and light around Tottenham Court Road are always pretty cool, so I keep an eye out around here for interesting subjects that could complement the scene. And this lady right here was almost perfect for it. Except my composition is bad. But never mind, I think it still kind of works. A very simple trigger for a lot of people is twins, or at least people matching. Again, it's still early in the day here, so I'm only warming up and just reacting to my surroundings. This would have been way better if the lad in the middle was also in the same shirt. With this one, I don't really have any idea what was happening. I just noticed some people run up to a taxi and give them a book, I think. Whatever the situation, I grabbed the frame and you never know what might come of it after, so this was random and I kind of just reacted to it. In the end, it's pretty boring. Okay, so I very much enjoy this next one. As I'm walking back and forth along Oxford Street, I see this couple in front of me holding each other. Just a nice, simple gesture. For me, this is the start of a story. I just need something else, another element to bring it alive. Maybe another couple showing affection, for example. After only about 30 seconds of following and waiting, this girl walks by with text on her shirt. Easily readable text on anything is an obvious trigger, as the text could potentially tell a story about what's happening in the street, and this t-shirt fits the scene beautifully. Really happy with this frame. A bit further down Oxford Street, I noticed the text "Love Yours" on the shop front, and following on from the previous photo, I thought I could try and wait and see if maybe I could get people embracing or showing affection in front of this composition. But after about 1 minute, I kept things moving because I really couldn't be bothered to wait. Sometimes I'm in the mood to wait around for a little bit, sometimes I just want to keep walking. Plus, I'm not really sure how good it would have been anyway. Just a couple of very basic reactionary shots here, nothing much to it. Over towards Selfridges again and more attempts to get myself that Robert Frank Canal Street photo, but nothing really came together here. Until I saw this puppy. It kind of feels illegal not to take photographs of cute dogs if you see them, so Here's that. Sometimes outside Selfridges is a very well-dressed doorman who tips his hat and greets people. Whilst I wait for Hannah to buy whatever overpriced thing she's looking at in Selfridges, I grabbed this simple frame. It's not great as the light behind him and all the subjects are too dark. The hat tipping gesture is nice, but nothing else about the frame is very appealing. I will, however, show you a decent shot I got last year of the same gentleman. I much prefer pretty much everything about this one. More window shopping around Selfridges, and I see this woman walk past sharing very similar textures and colors to the display. As you can see, I had to maneuver around the people in front of me to get a clean frame without anyone else in it. With that being the case, I'm not sure either version of this picture really worked. But the funny thing is, when I review the images after, I almost don't care as much if it worked or not, because just seeing these coincidences and attempting to get the photograph is the fun bit. The few seconds where you're really in the moment is the joyful part. Getting a photograph that works in the end is just the icing on the cake. Hannah and I headed to Paddington Gardens near Marylebone to eat our lunch when I spotted this lady in a very vibrant colour, reading alone. I wasn't recording at the time, but I composed her in a frame with these flowers in the foreground. Because I had the time, I tested 2 compositions, and I think I prefer the portrait version.